As a guy that used to not be able to talk to girls without shaking, small talk would terrify me. I used to always say things like, oh, I'm just bad at small talk. I need to talk about deep topics. And I took myself way too seriously, and it really hindered my ability to meet the types of women that I want. Because at the end of the day, we all know this, like watching this video, if you want to date attractive women, you need to reach some level of social calibration, social hook point, where she feels like, okay, this guy is just a cool guy, so I can actually start to potentially even view him as an option. You need to have social calibration. So in this video, I'm going to give you 6 different phases, all the way from beginner at small talk and social interaction to going to more advanced, where you are the most interesting guy that the girl has met that week, that month, or even that year. And genuinely, this is very possible. And this gets girls very excited to see you again if you actually do end up getting her number. So the first thing you have to understand about small talk, it breaks down into a very simple structure. There's question, answer. She asks you the same question back, answer, right? So you ask a question, she answers, she asks, you answer. That's the very basics of small talk. And that loop just repeats. An example of this would be, where are you from? I'm from here. Oh, cool. Where are you from? I'm from here, right? That's the very boring thing. And that's how you get into interview mode, and you kind of kill the vibe if you just stop there. So even with that very boring structure by itself, you can actually get into really good interactions. I'm going to explain exactly how. I'm going to get into some mindset stuff around this, but you're going to want to make sure you watch this whole thing, because most guys are oblivious to this stuff, and you need to understand it if you want to truly master the art of small talk. So do not click off this video. So what you have to understand about small talk is that small talk is not just what you're saying. It is an energy exchange. I want you to imagine everywhere you go, there's a bubble of energy around you, like a Super Saiyan fucking aura around you at all times, right? Every group you see, every person you see has this energy woo-woo blah, 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 kind of bubble around them, right? It's very woo-woo, very fucking cringe, but everyone has this, okay? Now, your energy, when it enters another group's energy, what most guys do is they try to match that other group's energy, but they just try to add to it. So instead of 2 people with the same vibe, we now have 3 people with the same vibe. Now, the problem with that is that these girls that you're talking to are like, well, I was already enjoying the vibe with me and my friend. And adding a third person without changing anything doesn't really make it better, right? So what you have to do is have your own energy. And when you enter the other person's bubble, you are now altering the chemistry, and you should try to alter the chemistry of that energy that's around them. And being aware of your emotional state is going to be very important around this. If you go in to an interaction and you try to intuit how kind of the vibe of the girls, and you try to match that, and you are like a nice guy that's like, oh, that's cool, and you just have this like very positive type of vibe. You're not speaking your mind. You're afraid to offend. You're walking on eggshells. It's just going to be a slightly shittier version of the vibe that they already had when you approached. There's a very important concept around this called the law of emotional mirroring. Women will feel how you feel. This is a fundamental law of talking to women and attraction. Women will always feel what you are feeling. And they will feel if you are reserved. They will feel if you are holding yourself back. They'll feel if you're genuinely expressing yourself. They'll feel if you're being authentic. Now, like in these videos, I try to ham it up a little bit for the camera, but generally I'm pretty much like this. Like I'm in coaching mode right now, but my personality outside of this is pretty much the same. I'm maybe a little goofier whenever I'm not filming. And that's it. I'm just who I am. I'm me, right? I'm Tim. I'm a dating coach, but I'm also just a fucking guy, right? And when I make these videos, I try to have my own authentic personality come through in the video. So I like try to make jokes, try to make references to stuff that I like. And that's really important to me. And the reason I do that is because my energy is impacting on you, right? So if I come on and I'm trying to like tell you how it is and like, try to coach you through some bullshit and do some weird, like, trying to frame myself as some authority, then it comes off weird. It comes off inauthentic. But if I just talk about my experiences, I'm a lot more authentic. And I've done a lot of work on just trying to express who I am and like the personality that I have. And when you go up to a girl and you enter her bubble, it's a lot of the same thing that's happening. She's going to feel all the experiences you've had in your day leading up to this point. She's going to feel if you're nervous. She's going to feel if you're anxious. And she's going to feel if you actually want to talk to her. So the reason I talk about this stuff is that if you're watching this channel, you're probably thinking with your logic brain, how do I talk to this girl? You're not thinking with your emotional creativity brain, how do I vibe with this girl? How do I connect with her? How do I see her for who she actually is? And how do I express who I actually am and trust that, honestly, the right girls will genuinely like that? I know it's not the super sick all-in-one answer that you want, but women will feel your vibe. This is one of the first things I work on inside my coaching programs. There's a reason I talk about this stuff a lot. It's because your vibe and how you come off, how you feel about yourself will affect your communication. And there's no way around it. There's no workaround. There's no faking it. How you feel about yourself will affect how she feels about you. Always. So just remember that when you're going into any sort of small talk scenario, she's always going to feel how you feel. She's always going to reflect that vibe. And you will be, whether you like it or not, altering the chemistry of her own energy bubble. And you need to be aware of that. Because a lot of guys, they just try to fall into place. We're kind of taught our whole lives, like sit in the chair, be a good boy, sit down. Like I have some fucking crazy ADHD, right? And so when I was a kid, like I would get fucking yelled at for like getting up and like I would never take a nap and all that kind of shit because I was just me, right? And so I got put in my fucking place and that beat me down until I wasn't very expressive and I was this guy on the screen. Like I was this fucking shy, like awkward kind of dude. And I had to really rewire a lot of that stuff. And the way I did that was by really looking inside and trying to accept myself. Like what are the parts of my personality that are actually like really fun, that I like, that I wouldn't change for anything. Like no amount of money, I wouldn't change this about myself. And I think that's really important just to understand before we get into this. I know it's like high level and you want to get into the tactics and stuff like that, but before we get into it, that is one of the most important things you got to understand. Now we can get into the logical part, the fucking engineer brain. All you engineers watching this shit, I know you're out there like, all right, how do I get into her mind and fucking mind meld with this girl? Okay, like what are the tactics? The tactics are broken down into two parts. One, building rapport, and two, breaking rapport. And both of these have specific functions in an interaction. At the end of this video, I'm going to show you the conversation loop and how to build off of it so you can have an endless conversation that never ends, that's always fun, and always keeps her hooked and engaged. I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So let's talk about building rapport. First, with building rapport, you have to be interested in the girl as a person. So actually interested in what she's up to, what her hobbies are, what her passions are, the things she likes to do, her experiences, right? And you have to be able to be genuinely interested in that. I don't know how else I can say it. You need to be interested. Now, the second part of building rapport is to share personal input. Personal input just comes down to being open about your own experiences. So I'm talking to a girl at Whole Foods. I'm talking to her about like healthy food or whatever. Like, oh my God, you're like a vegetable freak. Like, what's going on here? She's like, oh yeah, I really like to eat healthy. Oh, nice. I actually just started doing one of my buddies does fitness content. I just started doing one of his workout plans and like his diet and stuff. And I've lost some weight and I feel really good about it. Like, I'm actually pretty pumped. I really like going to the gym. I just need somebody to push me. Just that personal input into the insight of like who I am, the type of person I am. I like to push myself. I like to, push my comfort zone. That is very important to be able to do. You have to make yourself a human being. And this comes with a little bit of vulnerability. You might feel a little bit weird. You might feel a little bit nervous about sharing certain things about yourself. When I was starting, before I had the fucking World of Warcraft tattoo, I was actually in the top 20 US World of Warcraft guild. I was like grinding, playing 12 hours a day. And I had to get comfortable with the fact that like, well, if I start dating this girl, she's going to know I play video games. So I better talk about it in the initial interaction. There's no reason not to. Now, I didn't talk about it like it was a bad thing. I talked about it like it was awesome, how it was really competitive and how it, taught me a lot of life lessons. And, a lot of people think it's weird, but I fucking love it. I just think it's so sick. I love like getting on, playing my warlock, playing my warrior, like grinding fucking Legion artifact power levels, like doing Mythic Plus dungeons, like all that shit. I love that shit. It's super fun. Or when I was playing Counter-Strike a lot, I love playing Counter-Strike. I love just popping heads, being a fucking, the sick op flick, just fucking destroying nerds, right? I love that shit. I love it. And that was something about me that I thought was really cool. And so I own that about myself. And you need to do the same thing, right? You need to really start accepting the parts of you that you really like and be really open about them. Don't filter anything. Don't filter anything about yourself because she's going to find these things out anyway. So you might as well get ahead of it and own that shit before she gets a chance to disqualify you. Because when she finds out these things, she's gonna be like, why did he hide it from me? Is he not actually confident? He came up to me, he seemed confident, but he has all these things about him that he was not comfortable sharing. So you might as well just, if it comes up and if you see an opportunity, you should talk about the things you want to talk about in the interaction. And I'll show you how to use personal input in this conversation loop that I've talked about before with a visual aid at the end. Now, the second way to build a real connection is through breaking rapport. You break rapport or give her shit or challenge her because it builds camaraderie. It's not being a dick. It's not being rude, but taking risks in the interaction, saying things that you think are funny because you think they're funny and you're just giving her some shit, that builds a lot of comfort, actually, because that's how you talk to your friends. If you were going to talk to your friends, you wouldn't be really walking on eggshells, trying not to hurt their feelings. You would actually give her shit about that. So like the example I gave earlier, like, oh my God, you're like this fucking vegetable maniac. Like, what's going on here? Being able to say that and not be like, oh, is she going to think I'm weird because I said she's a maniac? Is she going to be offended? Bro, she's not going to be offended. Just use more extreme language and be okay with giving her shit and challenging her. I actually have a full video inside my program where I talk about 30 different teases that you can actually use, like 30 different lines, like being playfully disapproving, playfully disqualifying her, like, oh, see, this is why it wouldn't work between us. Those breaks in rapport build a lot of connection because it shows I'm not needy. I don't have a lot of fear of loss. If you walked away, I would actually be okay. Now, maybe I'd be disappointed because you're hot. Like, I'd be fine. You know, I know I'd be okay. Now, if you're watching this and you're like, okay, this is all cool, but how do I actually sound interesting, right? I have my passions, I have my hobbies, but like, how do I actually say it in a way that makes it sound interesting? How do I say these things? Well, there's three main things that I learned from a mentor way back in the day. It was like one of the first courses I ever bought. I don't think you can even buy it anymore. But there's three pieces to it. There is paint pictures in the girl's head, write songs in her head, and talk about your feelings. I'm going to get into all of these right now. So when you talk about a story from your past, oh, that reminds me of when I went to Italy. You don't just say, oh yeah, I went to Italy and Rome and it was like cool, right? It's fucking boring. No, I went to Italy and the cobblestone like roads, I was like taking giant steps up and down and like my hips were getting all fucked up because of the roads, but like it was amazing. I went to the Colosseum and I just imagined all of the like gladiators like fighting fucking lions and shit. And it was insane that people would just gather in this huge arena that I was sitting in and like watch people fight to the death. It was fucking, it was such a crazy experience just even seeing that. That's how you paint a picture in her head. You talk about what it looked like. The way you write songs in her head is by talking about the sounds, the things that happened. Right? So I went on this hike and the birds were so loud. They were chirping like these like beautiful songs. And it was like out of a video game. It was like I was some man lost in nature. And I just felt the breeze on my skin. And I was just like, holy shit, this is one of the most magical places. I had like in the back of my mind, I was like imagining some fucking orchestra playing because it just felt so scenic when I got to the top of the summit. Right? Talking about how it sounded as well, not just the visuals, but how it sounded. And another piece with writing songs in her head, the way you kind of think about it is rhythm and pacing of the interaction, right? If I want her to really pay attention to something, or I think something's really interested. If I want her to really pay attention to something, or I think something is very interesting, I'll say, okay, wait. So you're telling me that you do yoga. That is so crazy, right? It puts more emphasis on the things that I'm saying, and it brings her in. But if I get really excited about something and I'm like, oh my God, this is going to be fucking sick. Like, hey, let's go over here. I'm going to talk fast and I'm going to try to lead. Those are just a few ways that you can mix up the cadence and the pitch of your voice. And when you want to create tension, you slow it down and you get very close to her. And you can make eye contact and use silence. These are very critical pieces of sounding more interesting. It's not really what you're saying, it's how you're saying it. And the things you're comfortable talking about, the way you're able to illustrate the stories in her head when you're talking. Now, talking about your feelings, okay? I'm not telling you to fucking have a therapy session with this girl. What I'm telling you to do is be okay with talking about things you're passionate about and say that you are passionate about it. Instead of, oh yeah, I like that thing. It's like, no, I fucking love this thing. These grapes you have, I fucking love them. I'm obsessed with these grapes. They taste so fucking good. right? That's so much more interesting because now she knows that I actually have a strong opinion about these things. The only way to create a lot of tension with a girl is by showing a lot of emotion, right? You have to show emotion to connect with people. You just do. You can't be this fucking robot. And the main thing is, like, honestly, guys, I know you watching this video, you're not worried about, oh my God, this girl's going to think I'm a fucking pussy because I'm talking about my feelings. You're just nervous to express yourself, which is normal. I've been like this for a long time. For most of our lives, we're like emotionally stunted and we're uncomfortable with talking about things we like. Like when you meet a girl, she's all bubbly. She's like, oh my God, do you love that? Oh, that's amazing. Oh my God, that makes me feel so happy. I'm so happy for you, right? She's like that because she's very comfortable with expressing how she feels, wearing her emotions on her sleeve. And that is a very important part of building a connection with a girl when you first meet her. So earlier in the video, I told you that I was going to show you how this actually works in practice. So we're going to go through an example of an interaction. I'm going to show you how you can branch off and make these interactions more interesting. Okay, so now we have this conversation loop. If you were going to go through this normally, what you would do is you would say, what do you do? She would say, I'm a nurse. What do you do? And then you would say, I'm an engineer, right? And that's how it would go. And it would probably be super boring and you'd end up in this constant loop. Now, I'm going to show you how you can break off of this loop right now. So first you go, oh, what do you do for work? She says, I'm a nurse. Now, immediately you can inject some personal input. So, oh, cool. My sister was a nurse, or I actually, even better, I dated a nurse in the past. Their schedules were crazy. Now she can, so this is personal input. Now what she can do is she can start talking about her work schedule. Now you can either loop it back to your answer for the question and talk about what you do, or you can just talk about like work schedules in general. And at any point, if she talks about her crazy work schedule, you could give her shit like, oh, see, how are we going to go on a first date if you're fucking working all the time? What is this? So now you're breaking off here and you're teasing. Now, this loop still is not closed. There's endless ways that you can do this. And then when you talk about work schedules, now you can talk about some trip you took for work. But then you can do all the things like paint pictures in her head, write songs in her head. You can talk about your feelings. You can do all of these things. And now you're in this conversation loop that just never ends. And at some point, she's going to be so interested, she's going to want to end this conversation loop and start another one. But if you just keep opening new loops, oh, that reminds me of this, that reminds me of this, then you end up in a place where the conversation never ends. This is one of the most powerful tactics for expanding your interactions and expanding your conversations. And what you can actually do is an exercise for this called the Talk Forever drill. I have my clients do this inside my programs. If you want to apply, there's a link down below in the description. But what you can do with this is you can set a timer for 5 minutes, 10 minutes on your phone, and you just talk for that 5 minutes straight. This is what it might look like. So I'm talking to my phone right now, and it makes me feel like kind of a crazy person. Speaking of that, the Nashville homeless people are fucking wild. Not as bad as LA, but you know, they have a bunch of crazy stuff out there, but probably not as bad. I feel like all the crazy people actually might be leaving. So maybe LA is actually like getting better. I actually talked to a buddy and he said that, yeah, it's a little crazy out there, but it's actually not as bad as it was for a while. But that reminds me of people that are kind of influency. I've influence-y. I don't really know how to say that, but speaking of other words that I don't know how to say, I used to not be able to say spaghetti, so I would say Pischetti, obviously, which reminds me of this episode of Bob's Burgers, which is a really good show on Hulu if you guys haven't watched it, where this guy Teddy he can't say lawnmower. He said mow-lawner the whole time, and he's trying the whole episode to say mow-lawner, but then he ends up saying it in like some crazy voice, which kind of funny. I can kind of do personal like impressions of people, but not whenever there's pressure. As soon as there's pressure, I just like totally crumble when there comes pressure to like do any sort of impression of someone. Like, you know, I could try to do a Trump and do this, and it's the best thing that I've ever seen, but I know it's already not as good as it is when I do it just like kind of offhand and I'm not asked to, because those are funny, right? But I can't do it when there's pressure. So which reminds me, I've actually like with performing under pressure. I want to try doing stand-up comedy at some point because I think that would be like a really good way to push my comfort zone. And right now I'm kind of running out of things to say, but I'm not really, because I always have things that I can say, and I'm just kind of rambling at this point, and I'm just imagining the retention time just going down in this video. So we're going to wrap it up here soon. And that is what the exercise looks like. And if you talk for long enough, 5, 10, 15 minutes, you'll get lubed up to where you come up with enough stuff to say. And if you remember the core law here of emotional mirroring, women will feel how you feel. You can focus more on how you feel and not what you're saying. And all these tactics for how to paint pictures in her head, talk about your emotions, write songs in her head, those things will happen more naturally because you're just having fun with the interaction. If you want more videos like this, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you want to see next. I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.